Welcome back, guys, to part 2 of the motor mount video. Now in today's video we're going to be focusing on this mount right here, which is for the transmission. Now this one is definitely much more simpler since again it's just 2 pieces instead of 3, and it's much more easier to access. You don't have to remove any belts, any pulleys, any alternators, none of that. It's just removed and installed, which is why it's going to be the next one. The third one is probably one of the hardest ones to remove, but we're not going to be focusing on that right now. Obviously, it's the same idea. Take it apart, which is just held on by 2 bolts, so it's really not that bad to take apart. One-handed, not that easy, but here it is. This is the mount that connects to the transmission, and this is the bushing itself, which connects to the chassis by this one long bolt. Now this actually isn't everything. There is another damper piece that attaches to here, but what happened, I just removed it and threw it away since it's not needed. Once I install it to the car, I'll actually show you what that piece looks like. But it's basically the same idea. Take this piece, clean up all of the casting marks, which as you can see I've already done. It looks really good. So with this piece is ready for powder coating, the next piece is just going to be this one. Same process, clean up everything, clean up all the casting marks, which I have done already, as well as remove this bushing and clean the surface up, which is what I'm going to be doing next. Now before I actually go and start working on this one, I did actually finish up this piece right here. The 2 things that I had to do is drill out this piece right here. This was just a bolt hole. I don't need it anymore. And this hole right here. There was slightly bit of casting that I couldn't get out, so I just drilled them one out. And now this piece is pretty much done. It looks really nice. I wish I could remove, if I could see this casting mark right here. Can you see it? Yeah, right there. But unfortunately, I can't reach it. So it's gonna stay. Now with this motor mount, the interesting part about it is that the actual piece, the metal insert, isn't directly in the middle. So if you follow this middle line right here, it's offset like slightly to the right, which is not a big problem. I can just make a little template where this piece is, clean it up, and then insert it that way. But regarding the depth situation, it's pretty much spot on. So it's equal on this end and it's equal on this end. So that is pretty good. Well, let's go ahead and remove this bushing and make a little template. Now, if we look at this piece, I've already removed this bushing. So what I'm going to have to do is actually get a new one of these. Just make sure the diameter is correct. And then clean up this, and then this is pretty much going to be done. But this bushing right here, or even this mount, is going to be the exact same process as the first one. Just a bit different, it's more simpler. So I'm going to move on and get back to it later. What I'm going to focus on is actually this mount right here, which mounts the transmission to the subframe and is basically like a torque dampener. I'm not going to be putting a bushing in here actually. I'm going to be solidly mounting this piece for 2 reasons. One is I want to have an actual ground for my engine, since I do have some problems with the starter where I need to keep on adding grounding wires for it to work. So I want to have one solid grounding point, so I don't have to have any extra wires in my engine bay, which is going to be much more simpler. And the second reason is actually to not lose any torque when I'm flooring it, since when you do floor it, the engine goes back, this bushing captures it and doesn't transfer all of it to the power, to the wheels, which is the second reason I want to do it. This bushing is also, or even this mount is also really simple. It's just 2 pieces. This is the piece that connects to the transmission, and this is the piece that connects to the subframe. Those 2 together, remove this bushing, plate it, weld everything up, and then just get new bolts. Now as you can see, this is why I love getting new bolts, because look at it. All the threads are rusty, the head is rusty. Even if we look at this bolt right here, I mean, just look at how nasty it is. It snapped. So I have to get it anyway. Which is why it's always so important for me to get new hardware, so I don't have to deal with anything. Even if I went to the junkyard and got the exact same bolts, they might be in slightly better condition, they might be in worse condition. It's just like, it's not worth it really. Overall, let's go ahead and clean this up. Measure these bolts so I can cut the studs up and remanufacture everything. Now what we have here are two circles that I have printed out that are the exact same dimensions as this piece right here. So obviously the outer circle, this is 78 millimeters. Then the middle circle, that's this bushing right here. Well, not the bushing, the metal pin, that's 22 millimeters. And then the inner circle, that's actually the bolt hole. Obviously cross-hatching marks so I know where exactly to drill. That's all fine and dandy, but I'm going to use these templates to glue it onto this metal piece. You're using just some regular old glue. Once that dries, I'll be able to cut it out and then weld it onto the bushing over there. Just really simple stuff. Finishing off applying the glue. Let's go ahead and close that real quick. Whoops. Now we just take our templates and lay them down where we want to cut them out. Obviously closer to the edges the better, less work. And then we just apply some pressure. Then we just apply something pretty heavy on it, let that fully dry, and then I'll be able to cut it out and have a nice circle. It'll just makes things much more easier instead of doing it freehand. And a day later, after leaving a bunch of weight on top of these little circles, let's go ahead and cut them out. So let me set up a time lapse and I'll see you then. here are the two templates. Now, as you can see in the time lapse, I did mess up on this one. The only reason I messed up on this one is I made a large enough hole, so when I did start drilling the 22mm hole, the drill bit just bounced around everywhere, making it a really challenging time to actually make this hole right. So I just grabbed this one and made a new one. Obviously this one's nice. All of these two are pretty similar. They don't have to be exact, since I will just be welding on them. And if we take the bushing itself, as we can see, this lines up pretty nicely all around. And if we take the other side, this also lines up pretty nicely. So now all we have to do is remove this bushing once more, and then we can start welding these two pieces onto this piece right here.
Take you so baby left, then I get to take you so baby left. It's a little baby show. Take you so baby left, then I get to take you so baby left. It's a little baby show. Take you so baby left, then I get to take you so baby left. It's a little baby show. Take you so baby left. And I get to take you so baby left. It's a little baby show. Take you so baby left. And I get to take you so baby left. It's a little baby show. Take you so baby left. And I get to take you so baby left. It's a little baby show.
And here is the final product. Obviously I wire wheeled everything to clean up all the welding splatter, and overall it turned out pretty decent in my opinion. The welds are pretty good. They could be better honestly, because I have still a lot of improvements that I can make, but overall I'm really happy with the results. But now this video is getting kind of long, so I will have to make a part 3 of this series, where I'll be removing these bolts right here, welding in new nuts, and that one as well, then setting them to be powder coated, and finally installing them. So I appreciate you guys for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in part 3.